My name is Dan, and we're going to be talking about how to build an AI startup in competitive markets. And so, thank you all for coming. And I guess before I begin, I just want to thank the amazing folks at Google for making this talk possible, especially Corinna in the back of the room. Thank you, and Janine as well. Lovely. So without further ado, let's get started. So a bit of an introduction. My name is Dan, and I'm a medical student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. This is a photo of my first time going to the operating room. I promise I stopped wearing my beard, and I put my hat on properly. And this is just a photo of my portfolio group in med school. We're just getting some very expensive burgers by campus. So a lot of my current research is to do with otolaryngology, so like the head and neck. So I recently started a position with Harvard Med School and Mass Eye and Ear doing AI research for head and neck cancers. And for, I think, almost a year now, I've been with the St. Paul Sinus Center looking at better characterizing chronic sinus disease. And lastly, I'm the founder of a startup named Quas in Vancouver. And essentially what our product does is it listens to doctor-patient conversations and it automatically finishes all of the doctor's paperwork right after. And so it saves doctors a lot of time, but besides just being a little bit of an advertisement too, this is going to be a case study that I referred to a couple times throughout the talk just to explain how we're going about things and how it applies to the ideas in this talk. And so before I really get to it, I want to talk about the takeaways today. So this was, again, originally a healthcare talk, but some folks at Google asked to adapt it to make it more broad. And so the takeaways that I hope you take away from today are, first, how to build an AI startup fast. 2, how to pierce your competitive industry. And 3, and probably the most important thing, is I want to motivate you because I genuinely believe there's not been a better time than today to build your first AI startup. And we'll go into that. So without further ado, let's get into the principles of ideation. So sort of what it takes to come up with your next startup idea when it's with respect to AI. So there are 3 points I want to cover. First is I want you to know your advantage as an AI healthcare startup, or rather an AI startup in any competitive field. 2, I want to show you how to identify micro products in a strategic fashion to quickly build your AI startup. And 3, a very quick point on getting good market validation early on. And so to start off, what is a competitive market? So these are 3 hallmarks that I sort of thought of that I thought would be important for you to know. So first of all, a competitive market probably has grandfathered companies. So if I were to ask you today, hey, what other aircraft companies do you know besides Boeing and Airbus, you would probably take a minute and whip out your phone to search it up. Point number 2 is competitive markets often have a complex systems landscape. So think about finance, right? Finance involves so many different stakeholders, money going left, right, and center. You don't even know where to begin when it comes to mapping that. So that's another hallmark of a competitive market. And 3rd, just general difficult market entry. Whether it's through saturation or regulatory barriers, it's difficult to enter a competitive market. But lucky for us, we are startups, right? So that means that we're nimble and we're personal, which means that we can quickly develop new tools and quickly iterate and quickly pivot. Because realistically, as an AI startup or any startup, what do you have to lose? And you're especially in luck because you have amazing API access. And quite frankly, the whole point of this talk here today is that because of competition between big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, OpenAI, we have access to incredible development tools for AI. And so the democratization of AI has essentially leveled the playing field for us. So when Google and OpenAI compete to give you the best API for building AI tools, they essentially cater for developers. And what that means is we all have the same access to cutting-edge tools as the big companies do. And that has leveled the playing field for all of us. And it's opened the door to these sort of plug-and-play startups that you can build overnight and just throw up a JavaScript website and quickly create a company. But with that said, these plug-and-play startups where you have a JavaScript front end and a direct API call, it's very unsustainable, especially in competitive markets. And so you will be replaced easily by someone who can code faster than you and who can code better than you and who has more money than you. And so what you should keep in mind is that a plug-and-play startup is a very good way to build fast, to build a company fast, to impress users fast, and also to deploy fast. But then the question comes is, okay, once I've built this initial market share, how can I grow that into becoming a sustainable business? And you can do that through, certain aspects of adding user data, storing user data, adding new features, changing UI, et cetera. But this is something you should keep in mind because you don't want to just be a bare bones API plug-and-play company. And with that said, how do you even know where to make your API calls in the first place? And so I'm going to tell you guys about micro products. And so like I mentioned before, any competitive industry is complex. Most competitive industries are complex, especially the ones where you can make the most money and the most impact. And so we want to create tools that can start off using primitive APIs, but can expand ASAP. Now here's a quick diagram I threw together of the healthcare system in general. And yeah, feel free to take a photo or just refer to the slides that'll be uploaded later. But every single one of these points is an AI startup that you can build tomorrow. It's going to be difficult for some of them, but it's something that you can do. And so think about when you map out these industries. Can you throw an LLM here? Can you throw a speech-to-text here? Can you throw a text-to-speech here? And can that change the value for the end user? And lastly, I like to call this armchair validation because I think the best sort of validation you can get is through a simple text message. And so with my startup Quas, this is a message I sent to one of the doctors who now is using our software. And they responded to my pitch saying this would be game-changing. I spend 8 minutes per patient writing my chart equals 8 minutes of lost patient time. And I'm sure she loves her patients, but she also loves the extra money that comes when you see more patients, right? And spend more time with patients. And so our value proposition was simple, but it might be more complex for your industry and your product. So overall, those were the 3 points I had about ideation. And now for the second half of this presentation, I want to go over briefly some principles of execution. And because we're only here for about 15 minutes, I want to focus on 2 things. One is data protection, and one is strategy. Now, of course, execution also involves development, outreach, et cetera, but I think in the AI space, these are the 2 that are the most important. So first, data protection. I am not a security compliance officer. I am not well-versed in all the legalese that goes into patient privacy or data privacy. But these are the 3 factors that, as a team at Quas, we've had to juggle with when it came to deploying our product. And so, first of all, think about standard practice. Even if it wasn't a law, I'd hope that you'd be wanting to encrypt user data in your database, right? That's pretty important. So that's something that's standard practice that you do anyways. 2 is legal compliance. For example, in healthcare, you have HIPAA or PIPEDA if you're in Canada, like me. And legal compliance could involve aspects of all of your users' passwords must have at least 8 characters. Well, it's like, okay, I can do that. That's fine. And last thing is user comfort. So for our use case, where we listen to doctor-patient conversations, there are some provinces in Canada that actually suggest that you store audio recordings between patients and doctors, but would you be comfortable with that? I know I personally wouldn't be, and so there's sort of a balance you have to have of, okay, what do I have to do and what can I do later? And realistically, that's the point of this slide. And also, please, I know it's not here, find good lawyers. They are incredibly important when it comes to the ever-changing landscape of AI products. And 2, lastly, I just want to share with you all a little bit about strategy. And this is what we'll be ending the talk with. But strategy when it comes to building an AI startup really depends on your field. And so I'll focus on what I've seen in the AI healthcare space and the products that are being released there. What I noticed when I was looking into AI products that are available for doctors is that right now, these huge healthcare companies are overcharging for really simple AI tools, like embarrassingly simple AI tools that you can envision as a simple API plug and play. And that didn't really sit right with me. And so with Quas, what we ended up doing was splitting our development into 3 pieces. So the first thing that started was the actual development, where this is, again, me in a room programming until very, very late and studying in the morning, so I'd have time to do this. But development just sort of involved talking to doctors, seeing what they liked about our product, seeing what they didn't like, and iterating and building on that without actually being with patients. And that was just a quick way to develop our product and to get the ideas going into something that's legitimate. Point number 2 now, and this is where we currently are. So at Quast, we actually launched in the province of British Columbia on Wednesday, and within about 10 hours, we got our first 10 doctors live in offices, and they're loving our product. And the reason why we're able to get that much traction so quickly, and we have a wait list when I fly back to Vancouver that I'm going to get back to, but when it comes to market dissemination, what we're doing is we're actually giving our product out for free. And so we're competing with the big healthcare companies by giving the same product, or in my opinion, and in the opinion of our doctors, a superior product with more features, all for free. And so why would a doctor ever use those big companies' AI products? And realistically, if you're giving out a product for free in the AI space, the cost that it takes, your cost of operation is your cost of market acquisition. And so that's one way that you can justify doing this all to your investors. And the last point here is the concept of monetization, which is you eventually want to make money doing this. And so if you've done your market dissemination properly, you'll have non-negligent market share, and you can essentially convert your plug-and-play startup into something that's more than just a plug-and-play startup. And again, you're feature-rich with clients who are impressed by your software and also feel like they owe something to you. And so this is the 3-step path that we're taking at Quast to build a dominant AI healthcare product. And yeah, and so that's how we're doing it. And with that said, what I'd like to leave you all with today is the idea of moving fast. I promise you, we have not been in a better time to build a startup today. Not only can you use AI products to teach you how to code better and to follow security protocols better, but because all these big companies are competing to give us developers the best AI tools possible, we are in control here. And there's never been a better time to act now, because if you don't, someone else will, and your dreams of building a startup might slip out of your hands. And with that said, thank you all for coming today. Hope you learned something, and feel free to contact me. Thank you.